r/ask Reddit. What insider secrets does the company you work for not want its customers to find out? I work for a casino. Pro tip, don't go. Casino employee here too. The dealer wants you to win, unless you're stiff. Definitely, I used to work slot maintenance and pay out jackpots. It's fun to see people win and get excited. It's something new and interesting to help break up the monotony. Our Chinese manufacturers will be more than willing to supply us with a certificate assuring us and our clients that the cardboard and paper packaging for our new line of electronics is 100% recycled and eco-friendly. 1000% bullshit. I called our Chinese suppliers for a food grade certificate for the food grade conveyor belt they sold us. They sent over a rose certificate saying their product could be safely disposed of in a landfill. Sadly, the auditor accepted that. Not a big surprise considering all you need is a Word doc from them that says yeah, our stuff probably has like none of these rose materials. Former sandwich shop employee. They put soy sauce in the tuber salad. There. That's the secret recipe. Manager made me sign an NDA about it. Spice sauce. Edit. Misspelled. Meant French horn salad. Tuber salad doot edit. Holy shit. Gold. Thank Mr. Salad. Thank Mr. Salad. I work at a big store in the Netherlands and at the end of every advertisement week we have to make sure the shelves are almost empty so it will look like almost everything's sold out and the products we sell are popular. In reality we still have a lot in the stockroom but this way people will buy it faster because 1. It's on sale 2. It's almost sold out 3. It's a popular product 4. They think the company as a whole is doing a great job. It isn't really a big secret but I thought it's quite funny. Edit. The regular shelves are well stocked. I only meant the shelves that are for the advertised products of that week. This is why customers ask if you have more in the back and then employees get mad. I will always tell the tale of the Nintendo Wii that actually was behind the counter. It had just come out and it was sold out everywhere. When a new shipment came in you needed to be first in line before the store opened or you were not getting one. My parents and I were at Target for some reason I can't remember. But they were out of Wii as well. My mom said I should ask the people at the counter if there were more. Obviously they wouldn't have any because everybody was sold out. They would not hide any. Imagine my surprise when my mom goes up to the counter, asks for a Wii, and the person pulls one out from under the counter. Did they really have one just in case somebody asked? Did my mom call ahead to reserve it and for some reason they did? I will never know. But I do know they sometimes do have extras. This is true of academia in general but you have no idea how much money textbook companies spend on wooing professors. Just to give a couple examples. The last time I went to the big conference in my field, which was held in Atlanta that year, Bedford Street, Martin rented out the Atlanta Braves Stadium. Bus everyone at the conference there, about 2,000 people, gave us a free buffet that stretched through 3 rooms. We were up in the box seats, with an open bar and they opened up all the games in the back hallways for us to play. Pearson's party was far more modest. They rented out the Coke Museum, gave us all free tours and their free buffet only stretched through 1 freaking room, but with much classier food, but still had an open bar, just in case you were wondering why those textbooks of yours are so expensive. Duck Pearson. So while my math lab sucks balls in every way, shape and form, they're busy renting out the Coca-Cola Center and giving people fancy dinners? And that's just their shitty behavior at the college level. Nobody here is talking about them waving their dong around in public K-12 education. Big technology companies providing really slick services, especially where you buy things online, make it look like they really have their shit together. Most of them don't. Their back-end systems are held together by virtual rubber bands and glue and their staff stumble from one fire to another because the management teams never stopped trying to develop new features to allow technical debt to be repaid. The public-facing end is just fancy enough to hide that all from you. This is as true for Oz as it is for Ticketmaster. Jesus Christ. If Ticketmaster looks like it has its shit together, I don't want to know what their back-end is like. It's a bigger shit show than you can imagine. Trusting Ticketmaster with your credit card info is like trusting Michael J. Fox with your fine china. I used to work for IBM. It was well known within IBM that all projects would be significantly understaffed. This meant that the people working on those projects would work their ass off, We were all salaried employees, so we made no more money by working 80 hours per week compared to the normal 40 hours per week. IBM did make more money, however, since most of our projects were billed as time and materials, effectively hourly. When some internal people started complaining about the excessive overtime, IBM offered them the option of becoming an hourly employee. This meant that they no longer had access to healthcare, 401k etc., but they would be making significantly more money, in some cases more than doubling their previous salary, since they would be getting paid for every hour worked. IBM didn't think many people would choose the hourly option, thinking that their benefits plan was enough to keep people there as salaried employees. Of those that were offered the option, something like 95% chose to become hourly. Every single person that chose the hourly option was fired within 1 month. That meant that some projects that were already understaffed were even more understaffed. Many projects were cancelled or delayed because IBM chose to use these employees as an example of what happens when you complain too loudly. Ah yes, IBM. Their one talent appears to be crafting bomb-proof contracts. They'd underbid projects, completely screw the pooch on delivery, but the customer was stuck with them for the duration because they met the terms of the contract. I subbed for them once. I'm amazed their professional services arm stays in business. It's exactly like you described. Customer was a government entity and the relationship was very adversarial. IBM had 3 times as many managers as engineers on the project, which actually makes sense when you realize the goal is to deliver nothing and charge as much as possible for it. The garlic butter we put on our pizza crust is, in fact, garlic margarine. There's no dairy in it at all. I'll get customers calling in every once in a while who ask for soy cheese and no garlic butter. And if I'm feeling nice, I'll let them in on the secret they can enjoy that garlic goodness without worrying. Garlic butter just sounds more appetizing than the truth. Editing for clarification. Disclaimer. I work for a local pizza joint, not a chain. I deliver. I have nothing to do with making any food whatsoever. I know butter is healthier and that margarine isn't vegan. I don't care. You're ordering a ducking pizza. If health is your main concern, you done ducked up already, son. I can't believe it's not butter. I can't believe you've done this. I take donations at Goodwill. We throw away a good 90% of what we get. Once upon a time I worked at a Goodwill. People think the clothes that are sold are washed. The clothes are not washed. I once was putting stuff away and found a dirty menstrual pad stuck to the crotch of a pair of jeans. Yep, definitely not washed. It's how they get that specially curated Goodwill smell. Domino's pizza tracker isn't accurate. Employees can enter shit on the computer to make your order to appear at a different stage than it actually is. The horror. Edit. Apparently some stores show where the driver is. Those are, to my knowledge, pretty accurate. The thing the employees change is the step in the series of steps to make and deliver your pizza. For example, the manager doesn't like the orders sitting on the shelf. The tracker says it's passing quality inspection, sitting on a heated rack, so he will dispatch the order before a driver is there to take it. It makes the store's out the door time more impressive for the OERs. Seriously, 2 weeks ago I ordered Domino's for the last time in my life. After 10 minutes it was on delivery. 45 minutes later I call and ask, "Hey, where's my food?" She puts the phone down for 15 seconds. Without muting it, I might add. Yeah, the driver just left. Call back another 45 minutes later. Different person picks up, "Hey, I've been waiting over an hour and a half. Where's my pizza?" "Oh, I am so sorry, that driver was in an accident. We're remaking it. Pizza arrives after 2 hours. 15 minutes. Hey, this ticket says the pizza was done 2 hours ago." Delivery guy, "Oh no, we put the time an hour back so they get out sooner. This shit is cold. It's been 5 hours when it said it was out 2 hours ago. I am complaining to corporate and doing a charge back on my credit card." Tips him for bringing it. Slams door. I call corporate as soon as they open. They tell me, "Oh yeah, we have had a lot of complaints about that location. Thanks for the input." Hangs up. Edit. Just to add, I called back the next day to ask if the driver was okay. They told me they didn't know what I was talking about. All of their drivers were fine. So if anyone here is on James Island, that Domino's is full of a-hole line pricks. Said it. A letter. Also, duck this place. I stopped ordering from Domino's for this exact reason. They'd always put my pizza as delivered within 30 minutes of my order, but it wouldn't actually be delivered for well over an hour after. You don't have to get a GED. It's just one type of high school equivalency, but GED is synonymous with that concept, so people don't know there are other options. Pearson likes it that way because they can charge $120 per test, with most of that money going to Pearson. Pearson doesn't want you to know that. Depending on availability, you can also take the HISAT or the TASC battery of tests for half the price or less. Until a few years ago, before Pearson stepped in, the GED cost $10 to $20 in most places. Edit. Not all colleges accept all forms of high school equivalency, and often the HISAT or TASC can be almost as expensive as the GED. Unfortunately, it's complicated and you have to do your research. Depending on where you live, you might be screwed either way. Added context because I didn't expect this to blow up. For decades the GED was dirt cheap because people who need a GED are usually broke. And then magically when education giant Pearson showed up, everybody had to charge 10 times as much because one of the easiest ways to get rich in America is to exploit poor people. I work in testing, and between Pearson and College Board I'm not sure who the bigger devil is, but it is sickening how much money they make. CB still charges $25 to send official score copies out, which is literally a piece of paper in an envelope. That's after they have charged you $120 plus for the exam itself. They own Akaplacer SAT AP Springboard and CLEP, with the Akaplacer suite being the cheapest to administer, but I bet money it is administered far more than the others, as a majority of the states use it as their placement exam and it cost around $20-25 to administer the full test. I just tested 128 people today for it, so they are banking. I get sick thinking how much of test taking is owned between the two companies and just how much they profit off people. It has nearly ruined my job because of the ethical blurriness I get from it. I didn't realize how ducked the whole situation was until Texas took on that C, which is an Akaplacer exam. Texas previously used the Akaplacer for placement, but they basically paid CB to develop a new test for Texas and guinea pig the future of placement examinations. The test is utter BS and it infuriates me to no end. Sorry for the rant. Edited for format and I'm on my phone. A long time ago I worked in a pet store at a mall. The company's motto was "the customer comes first," which is a kind of ducked up motto to have when you're selling, live animals. They obviously cared more about sales than the animal's welfare, and would push rabbit sales around Easter, even though buying a rabbit just because they're cute around a particular holiday is a terrible idea. They also sold a number of exotic small animals that I'm pretty sure would have actually made terrible pets due to being nocturnal and high-strung. In short, don't shop at pet stores. Your local animal shelter has your new best friend waiting for you. For much cheaper or maybe even free. Edit. For the record, the pet store was PJ's Pets in Canada. I just googled them and turns out they are shutting all of their stores. Best news I've heard in a while. There used to be a pet store in a mall I went to as a kid, which has since been run down and crappy. I loved going to look at the animals, and I saw this super sweet bulldog puppy. My mom said we couldn't get him for a number of reasons, and I started bawling because I wanted to get him out of the mall. The cages were cramped, there were too many dogs, and all the kids did was manhandle these poor animals. The pet store closed down semi-soon after that. I hope that dog ended up being okay. Scientist here. About 50% of all published results cannot be reproduced in another lab. A lot of statistics are tweaked with to get results that are statistically significant, which is skimming the edge of what's legal and what is not. Hacking man. It's gotten out of control. I just watched a series of master's student thesis presentations and 8/10 of them had results based off of statistical analyses with holes big enough I could have driven a truck through. What I find really funny is that it was obvious that 99% of the audience just accepted the information, didn't ask questions, and gave standing ovations all day long. It felt like a elementary school science fair, but for adults. Another scientist here. This is only scratching the surface. The name of the game in academia is publish or perish. It's a given that a lot of your experiments aren't going to pan out. Sometimes they're abject failures and there's just no way you can publish. but sometimes they only kind of failed, and that's where you run into trouble. Maybe if you eliminate certain animals from the study you suddenly have an effect, but then you realize some of the rest of your data contradicts the result you need. So you just don't include those measures at all. Pretend you never looked at them, and hope your reviewers don't ask for that kind of data. When it comes to including pictures of experimental data for representative purposes, showing what a tissue sample looked like for each experimental group, it's an unspoken fact that no one uses pictures that are actually representative. No, you cherry pick your best, most exaggerated samples to use as the representative examples. In the tissue sample example, maybe most of your tissue samples are torn and the staining looks roughly the same in all of them, even though you do get some statistical effects. But all anyone outside of your lab is going to see are those few pristine slices with clear differences in staining. There are also euphemisms scientists will use to include data that isn't actually significant. For example, maybe there was one result you were really hoping for but it missed that p equals 0.05 cutoff for statistical significance by a small amount. Well, general consensus is that as long as the p-value is less than 0.1, i.e. twice the 0.05 cutoff, you can still include it and say you had a result that approached significance. And then there's ignorance and incompetence. The big one is that a lot of scientists will use inappropriate statistical tests for their data, simply because they don't know any better. There's also all the mistakes that are bound to happen during a study, especially considering a surprising amount of science groundwork is done by undergrads. And keep in mind that even the guy running the study may not be aware of how shitty the work was because his students don't want to get in trouble by admitting to botching an experiment. And all of this is just for developed nations with stringent ethical codes for research. In countries like China, the state of things is much worse, with outright fabrication of data being incredibly common. One of my Facebook friends interviewed for a teaching position at the school district I work for. She was nervous and awaited the news with 100% more anxiety than she should have. The teacher shortage we have here is so bad we'll pretty much take anyone that's completed their certification, including people that have just obtained it and have never stepped foot in a classroom before. The sad thing is, I believe the shortage has more to do with how the state handles education and how teachers are treated. They demand higher and higher expectations with no increase in wages. The top of the industry get paid very well. Teachers get paid dong. Then the good teachers who have been doing it for a while and are doing well are being pushed out because they cost too much. What you are left with are a bunch of inexperienced teachers being pushed very hard and are doing the best they can with what little they get. Last year my school lost my teaching counterpart right before school started. They were in a hard place and left me with double the amount of students. 6 periods of 35 11-year-olds. I didn't get paid any more for having the double amount of children. This year, since my test scores were still great, they opted not to replace the lost teacher and save themselves some money. Last year I was diagnosed with a lifelong disease that presents itself under high stress. I don't think the two aren't correlated. I'm currently looking to go back to school for a career change. I knew the pay would be shit, but I didn't expect to be openly disrespected. The sustainability policy is not about environment at all, it's about cost reduction. I don't think anybody believes that companies are putting in less plastic in their bottles or washing your towels at the hotel less because they care. Same reason lawmakers are now supporting marijuana legalization in multiple states. They don't give two shits about public opinion and social issues. They just watched Colorado and Washington start raking in money and they want to get in on the ground floor. If those states' legalization measures didn't create a substantial revenue flow, it wouldn't even be on the ballot in any state this November. I work at a very large farming company that grows and packages a certain vegetable. Hint, Bugs Bunny. The store brand and the private label brand right next to it are from the same field and there is no difference between the product in it. I'm led to believe that this is the case with virtually all store brand products. I worked for a home security company. 2 big secrets. About 90% of the salesmen are lying douchebags that will say anything to get you to sign up and then think they can hold a contract against you. But if you complain enough to the right people, The legal department will cancel your contract outright. The equipment is super cheap despite the fact that they tell you that you are basically paying for the equipment over the length of your contract so that you don't have a huge upfront cost. The parts for an average home with an 8-piece system, panel included, only run about $800 at cost, if that, but it depends on the stuff you get. But you will pay out several thousand over the length of your initial 3 or 5 year contract. Any extensions on top of your initial contract with no new equipment or services is money straight into the pocket of the company. Monitoring ends up costing the company a few cents a day when you break enough systems across enough operators. If peace of mind is worth that to you, then go ahead and sign up. Monitoring service is excellent but the equipment is shit. If you have a central station alarm system, be sure to mention to your insurance broker/agent. Most homeowners policy have a discount for having a system in place which could justify some of the cost. Sounds like you should open up your own home security company, undercut your former employers but still make enough to poach the good sales and install guys, and still make a reasonable profit. I once had the agent try to say weather when I had overheard a different agent say the ramp was stuck. I called her out on it and got our entire flight meal vouchers. It was glorious. We all went to the bar and had a drink. Used to work at a water park. 9 times out of 10 when the pool is shut down for maintenance or low chlorine levels, it means that someone shat in the pool. Someone died in the pool at Lifetime Fitness and the next day they sent an email saying that the pool will be closed to conform to the rules when an environmental incident occurs. The USA famous brand MyPillow and its official pillow of the National Sleep Foundation means nothing since the owner created the group. Now I'm proud to announce that my dong is the official dong of the National Dong Foundation. I tell you not to get a Chinese power supply to your computer but we sell Chinese power supplies. I'm so sorry. How do you get the name and address of the darling company? Whenever they're calling me there's some scumbags not exactly forthcoming with information. Anesthesiologist here. A large part of my job is to protect you from the surgeon who doesn't care about your 5 heart attacks and stable angina, and the fact that you ate breakfast when instructed not to. If your case is cancelled or delayed there is almost always a good reason. The surgeon will make it seem like it is an anesthesiologist's fault but it is because they likely didn't care enough to ask about your medical history, didn't do the proper pre-operative workup, or just don't care. Other than that I have no secrets to report. Intraoperative awareness is exceedingly rare. 1. 20,000. I won't let people make fun of you or talk inappropriately while you're under. And we take physician medication diversion drug addiction extremely seriously. Thanks for the gold, kind stranger. I'm a chemist and throughout my education and career I have observed that scientific fraud is widespread and there is little interest in doing anything about it. I seriously doubt the validity of any sort of scientific data because of this. It's so simple to do really. Cherry picking data can be as simple as just not writing down a number you don't like, or even writing or entering a different number. Anytime there is money involved there is strong push to please those paying the bills. Many times I have been asked subtly or not so subtly to repeat things until the desired result is achieved. No one out and out tells you to fabricate things but instead it is usually implied that your work is somehow flawed or you must have made a mistake. Do it again. I can look over someone's raw data and usually tell if they are cooking the books or dry labeling but it is all but impossible to prove. You can also tell by someone's workload. If you are putting in hard 12-hour days and your colleague spends most of his time reading magazines something is up. Also you could put a full camera crew in front of a lab worker and they could 100% fabricate data and you would never see anything to indicate that they were. It's just so easy. There are legit good ways to detect stuff like this. Things like statistical analysis and blind samples that are independently verified. This is almost never done. Edit. To all the folks asking about climate change, I'm not even going to touch this issue. No comment. I used to work for a tax service. I don't want to get in trouble, so let's call them Tibbetty Lax Service. The people that they hire to do your taxes have at most 2 weeks of training. When I was there, I knew people who didn't even have that, usually only a week. They will charge you $99 per form for your taxes, by the way. Edit because some have asked. From my time there, I've learned that the people that are targeted are most often the ones in need, who don't know about the opportunities available to them. I know also for a fact that the call center had specific lists of clients based on what they filed the previous years. So if a client previously had something where they filed and claimed government assistance, they were called at a specific month. If they were in certain income bracket, once again, called at a certain month. The scummiest thing, however, that I observed was the sales tactic they used. Most often, you'd be offered a free quote. Come in, let them see your paperwork and they'll tell you what you can get. What would often happen, however, is that you'd go in, they would go through the entire process of filing your return, and at the end, you'd basically be pressured into paying because they already did all the work. And if it turned out that you couldn't pay at the moment, there was also the convenient option of just subtracting the amount from the return itself. Oh, and the return. Yep, cross your fingers on getting it. And if you do get it, let's hope you're not audited. At the time of me leaving, the franchise was facing a class action lawsuit from a lot of the previous year's clients. But of course, that only happened because this location happened to be in a wealthier neighborhood. Edit 2. I actually did a little research on the matter, and I happened to actually find this. Now, I'm not saying that this is the place I worked, but it is 99.9% similar. The big difference, as I said, is that the place I worked for was Tibet Lax Service. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.